He was totally traumatized by some of these images. And the reason he wasn't just because he recognized he'd been an experiencer. It was this. I understood on multiple levels that I was a code breaker, an esoteric engineer. What its potential was for humanity. It contained codes, ciphers, forms, geometric formula, blueprints, designs, models, encryptions, meta-languages, hieroglyphics, schematics. An internal Rosetta Stone was turned on, an intergalactic process I could understand on a conscious, superconscious level, something I had been trained to do. Now that's the important point here, because I'm going to talk about space schools and those that have gone to these schools to be trained. I was a code breaker, able to interpret encrypted codes, receive, downloaded, I don't know where it comes from, activated by the artwork, I'm able to understand and do something with it. So these are the code breakers, but I've got something even more incredible I found, because I got a letter from a lady in the States, and she was looking at all the pictures from Tracy Taylor, and she was showing her 7- and 4-year-old independently, didn't say where they were from, just said, what do you think of the pretty pictures? Both the 4-year-old and the 7-year-old said they're from the aliens, but the 7-year-old didn't stop there. He's dyslexic, now take a note of that, he's dyslexic, right? And he said this, they contain information about aliens. The pictures contain images of harvesters of energy, machines which harvest the sun's energy. They're different types. The other pictures contain information about the aliens. One is about the 7 who will be coming. There are eagle people and cat lion people. They have ancient messages. But he's not done there. He hasn't finished. I asked about the pyramids and Tracy's paintings. Sun, that's how the aliens will come. They will land and arrive. It's a teleportation machine. The big pyramid isn't the only one, there are others. They will come at the pyramids and fly over the ground to the South Pole, then shoot up to the North Pole by way of a teleporter, and then fly down the pyramids again. He made hand motions to indicate how they went from the center of the earth from pole to pole. You say others, do you mean other pyramids, his mother said. Son, I mean teleport places on every continent, places all over the world. So there are other types of teleportations other than the big pyramid of Khufu. Yes, he said, the side of the hill, lots of hills, hundreds of them around the world, a place where aliens do science there. I stopped asking questions, I just needed to digest it. He was starting to scare me again. Now this is what I mean. These are the upgrades. So the new human, who are they? Where are they? And just how many of them are out there now? This is what I'm going to be talking to you for the last hour. I'm getting through it fairly well. Good. The ancestors, we've done DNA manipulation. If you want more of that, it's all in my book. The intergenerational link to star beings, ancestors from the stars, upgrades, each generation is activated from the earlier models, how this occurs. The new human programs, how do you recognize them? How do these non-human intelligences help keep them awake and not programmed? Space schools, how can we help the new generations to assist with this evolution process of consciousness? The Star Kids. Tracy Taylor very early on told me this when I first met her. There's a race of beings upon the planet increasing in number, though visually and physically indistinguishable to most humans. They're the bringers of light. They're here to guide the awakening of terrestrial consciousness. The new children are born without programs and will bring about a global awakening. She was telling me this before 2000. I then found out, of course, more about this. They have superior mental and analytical capabilities. They've got direct connection to higher awareness, extreme sensitivity to thought, emotion with enhanced DNA, photographic memories, fast motor neuron responses. They can manipulate time and space, non-verbal communication, telepathy, and have resistance to disease. Dr. Olson says this, my information, if it's correct, there are 12 different main groups of new DNA people. It responds to the 12 different main groups of ET alien DNA donors, so 9 more to go. Their DNA is activated mainly via remote control and frequencies, so it's like putting a virus in a software computer program. They will give off energy patterns that spread to their surroundings, almost like the flu or GMO genes, which can contaminate via frequency patterns. That's how this is going on. That's how it's happening. Okay, so is it really happening? Alfie Clamp was found a child with 3 DNA strands, the first one ever acknowledged by the medical community. His 7th chromosome has an extra strand. The article states, and officially acknowledges a child with these 3 DNA strands. We're making an evolutionary change, this convention of geneticists is saying. We will be developing 12 DNA helixes. Each extra strand of DNA will grant us superhuman abilities that we now are calling paranormal. This is from geneticists. So, who are these new programs of human? They're called many names. Dr. Olson calls them letter people or a quantum. Homo noeticus, star seeds, and also known as indigos, crystals, etc. But they're also known as something else. They're also known as ADHD, Asperger's, some forms of autism, and dyslexia. And I'll explain that in a minute. The exponential increase in autistic ADD indigo children have new genetic architecture which allows them to see the world in a multidimensional fashion. Dr. William Brown, 10 years after Tracy told me about those new kids, actually confirmed everything as a molecular biologist. I believe research would show dormant genetic regions are being reintegrated into the biological systems occurring in all of us to produce expanded awareness. Their brains work faster, they have access to more information in the beginning. In classroom, learning is much faster than normal. So here we have the others, the new programs. I do not believe these are broken genes, but offering new multidimensional skills to prevent limited reprogramming of a third-dimensional reality. Another molecular biologist saying identical things to Dr. William Brown. So what have we got here? And Dr. Olson did tests on herself because she knows that she's a letter person. So she tested these things. She found she had above normal sensory cells for pressure in her skin, could hear more sound frequencies above the normal range, aware of minute differences in the shades of colour than normal range. Taste and smell was enhanced, sensitive to all frequencies and could feel overwhelmed at times by sensory overload. Sensitivity to radioactive radiation, energy fields and energies beaming out of angry people as well as love and happiness. As letter people, they have to learn how to focus and control their energy field. They'll be less prone to getting ill from their surroundings. So, oh, I've done it again, guys. I keep doing this, don't I? I can press it in the middle. Come on, guys. Where are you? There we go. Let me make sure I've done that. Okay. I met Neil Gold in Hong Kong when I was speaking there some years ago now, and the clue that I got about ADHD was this. He said he'd been an ADHD, but didn't find out till he was in his 50s. But he said he always saw reality differently. And this is what he said in his book. My book is about what happened in my extra-dimensional world where I met the beings of light. Being symptomatic of ADHD, I'm not limited to the square template of the universe. I'm wired to the multidimensional universe. My internet browser can browse into chaos, be it on Earth or the multiverse. I can perceive hidden layers of order and make sense of it all. Most folk without a supercharged browser cannot do this. They're focused towards convention of this reality. And he reinterprets ADHD beautifully in Always Dialed into Higher Dimensions. So this is a whole new way of looking at what we previously thought was a dysfunction. No, it isn't. And nor is it for Asperger's. Look at the Asperger's brain and look at the normal brain. There's your clue. This is a drawing by an Asperger's who calls himself an Aspie in England. He's a businessman. He's actually a businessman in England. And he wrote to me and said this: your work of late astounded me. I have the same sensitivities you explain in your talks, and I wanted to talk to me some more. He said this: I'm left-handed but can read text upside down, even backwards. I get a compulsion to speak in a tongue which is not familiar but comes naturally. I've always felt different. My eyes change colour at 5 years old. I heal faster than most. I'm precognitive. I've had 3 near-death experiences. I sense presences, hear more sounds, perceive a greater spectrum of colour. This is the Asperger's and one of the new programs. Look at autism. Look what's happened here. Look at 1975, 1 in 5,000. 2007, 1 in 150. Look at 2017, 1 in 45. And the reason this became highlighted to me was I was finding it really strange when experiences were coming as parents to me, and obviously were having lots of things happen that were changing their consciousness. And I thought, well, that means that this is passed on because it's intergenerational to your kids. Why are some of the kids with Asperger's? Why are some of the kids having some of these kinds of autism? Why are some of these kids having ADHD if they're supposed to be upgrades? Unless they are upgrades, but they're wired differently and we don't understand. And this is where we're going, guys. Here's an autistic child. And it's interesting because Dr. Diane Powell is a neuroscientist. And you know what she's testing him for? His ability to be telepathic, because he's telepathic. He's also very bright. Have a look at this. He could speak several languages: Spanish, Greek, Hindi, Hebrew, by the time he was 3. 8 languages by 4 years old. Algebra at 4. 18 months multiplication. I had to take him out of school when he started correcting the teacher. He's different. No one understands how he thinks. He appears to be telepathic. So there's an alternative method of communication between autistic children and parents. And I'm going to show you a little bit more about this. There's a lovely lady down here, Sandra Doziger, got in touch with me because she's an expert in autism. She's written a number of books and has wonderful success. And it was quite fascinating because initially she didn't tell me how she knew. What she was telling me was, one type of autism is Asperger's, have high IQs and artistic, and in music and mathematics is genius. And then she says, I believe autism is a marker for something extraordinary happening in the human species, a consciousness shift, an emergence of children with extraordinary gifts. We believe there's a pigment intolerance, and if this pigment intolerance is removed in diet, many of the behaviours abate. But how did she get to know about all of this? Believe it or not, through the mantis beings, who she communicates with. And she said that she's a lifelong experiencer. As a child, she experienced being taken on light ships. And she said that her contact taught her knowledge about autism and Morgellons disease. So that's how she became, and look at her credentials. She's got a Bachelor of Science degree, doctorate in psychology, 2 master's degrees in psychology. So she's got it all, and she's saying this. And this is what I'm saying, is many of those now working in fields are getting insight and information from our non-human family. So let's look at the hybrids that are now manifesting, because this is part of this as well. We're all hybrids. I think you've all come to that conclusion, hopefully, from what I've just told you, that we have inserts of ET-DNA. And the reason that that's happening and why they're interacting with us, let's go into that. This is a book called Meet the Hybrids by two authors. One of them is Miguel Mendoca in England, and Barbara Lamb is another researcher like myself. She does a lot with crop circles and she's a therapist. They did in-depth interviews with those who identify with the term hybrid. And she said this: there are various reasons for the hybrid program. They differ depending on species and if they're involved with the military, and that's a whole different ball game. If I have time, I'll mention more on that, but I want to focus on the ones that are created or waking up to their hybrid nature. I believe one purpose for the creation of hybrids is to bridge the divide between ETs and humans, taking positive attributes from each race for certain purposes such as healing, higher intelligence, stronger spiritual connection, and so forth. Now, Charmaine is actually a Reiki healer, a nutritionist. She's studying Chinese medicine, and she is a hybrid, she tells me, part human, part reptilian. And I have to tell you, I've met her a couple of times. I've done work with her in regression. And she much prefers her reptilian side, I have to tell you. And she's a very attractive human looking woman as well. And that was what's so interesting, is she feels that a lot of them are actually misunderstood. But you can make up your own mind about that, but she is quite happily a hybrid. So I asked Zach, who is another young man who told me about the hybrids, and this is what he's saying about them. The hybrids are expressing their consciousness through their DNA, as is the new human. The hybrids are a part of the new human archetype we're evolving into. The labels don't matter, the humans are evolving, our DNA is advancing, and we will express that in any way possible, and it's contained in our DNA. Zach, when I first spoke to him, was 16 years old. I have never met a more aware 16-year-old in my life. And that's not true, I've met a few more now. We can express it as a hybrid form such as indigo crystal. That's the energy they're expressing or perceiving through their reality lens and what we are emitting. They're all interconnected, but you perceive it as different if you wish to. So let's go into that. What was interesting here is a child of 8 seemed to have had information about his own shift in DNA through an experience that his father wrote to me from New Zealand. This drawing at the top is the one he drew afterwards. His father helped him with the second one. My 8-year-old son, he wrote, found himself staring into his young brother's eyes and said they changed, and he described what he believed to be DNA or genetic material. Because everything was moving and struggling, to copy it, he did it the best he could. We sought the closest match, which is here. He recalls lots of fibres connecting till the third phase is complete. He referred to it when the body splits during the second wave and regrowth happens like a fuse being lit. He wasn't looking in his brother's eyes, but closing his eyes to darkness, and the waves of DNA came through it. So we're looking at potentially a kind of DNA upgrade that he was aware of. Here's more of the images that with his father he was able to draw. I asked Dr. Olsen, who's a molecular biologist, what she could make of this. Remember, this boy is 8. The boy might have been hit by the same frequency that first put them into contact with the first dimensional black hole, and this way they came into contact with space-time instead of time-space as we have in 3D. The hexagon pattern occurs when frequencies are working on material, using the frequencies to build the most energetic, favourable form to store the energetic frequency. So he's having an upgrade, according to Dr. Olsen. The second wave to hit the boys might be the information they were upgraded with, the third wave wrapping things up and closing the portals before the boys turn back to normal state. So, was there a difference in this young man afterwards? Well, actually there was. And this is what's so fascinating. The changes since he had this, what appeared to be this shift or DNA, if you like, upload or download. My son was in a state this morning over me, the father saying, eating fish roe for lunch the day before. Once I explained it was baby fish, he was in hysterics. It took 30 minutes for him to calm down. He questioned if my wife was to be taken by a fish, how would I feel? He won't eat meat or anything with egg in it now and always wears bare feet to school every day, and he has amazing compassion for others and animals. Okay? So there, you can make of that what you will. To be hybridized is to be awakened, and this is what Zach's saying. This is a little bit more information. There are many different agendas on the planet. Each species has its own programs. I've been told about the hybridization is to expedite the evolution of humanity. It's not like hybridizing us by replacing our DNA with theirs. We already have their DNA in our bodies. They're activating it through frequency and light manipulation. The consciousness that we are vibrating with is the attributes we will take on. So if someone is strongly connecting to Arcturians, they will take on Arcturian attributes. So if you feel you're from the Pleiades or you're from another one, what you're really doing is vibrating with that ET DNA in you to connect to that part of it. So if one is connected to the Greys, it's the same thing. This young lady told me at 13 she was absolutely certain she was a hybrid and very different to her parents. She's 16, from Spain. My parents and I live in 2 different worlds, she said to me as she wrote to me, Marina. I started to see the word hybrid very often, mostly everywhere. My DNA started activating when I was 15 intensely and very fast, so I experienced an accelerated awakening. It was so prompt, my energy shift and part of my body was cold. I had the ability to go out of my body to another dimension with my astral body when I wished without the need for meditation or laying down. I instantly remembered what some would call my star origins, Andromeda and Arcturus. Remember, she's 16 from Spain. Here's more of her. Let's have a look at that. I realized I had ET features no one else in my family has. Slanted eyes, big slanted eyes, oval face, weak jaw, pointed chin, elongated neck, small mouth, a lower body temperature. I asked myself, where did my genes come from? I started to feel, sense ETs abducted my mum when I was an egg and gave me alien genetics. Make of that what you will, but you're going to see more of that, I suspect, as we start to accelerate. Now, this is another of her drawings. It felt like a wake-up call at 13. I got obsessed with science, ETs, quantum physics, question what is reality, how was the universe created, why do I exist, what is what is existence, and so on. I felt like very strong shift in my consciousness, and woke up questioning everything. And everyone who wakes up to their ET encounters or any kinds of encounters starts to get obsessed for a while. I'm sure some of you recognize that. But the thing that I came to understand is that most starseeds come here with this wake-up call encoded in their DNA, so that they can wake up at which determines the point in their lifetime, so they can align to their mission. In my case, it was 15 years old. For some, it's 40. For some, it's 60. It doesn't really matter. It's when you have decided it's time to wake up. These are some of her physics downloads that she sent me. And this is what she's saying, the scientific information downloads. Remember, this is a 16-year-old. Vibratory frequency movements in connection with geometry, mathematical infinite constants such as pi, numerology, the structure of the universe, connections to geometric constraints, phi, with physics and interconnection of time and consciousness, the why of geometry in the universe, its deep logical and spiritual meanings, the nature of particle physics, spiritual understanding, the structure of creation, space energy, you get the deal. This is the kind of thing that she's getting downloads with. She also knows she's being monitored, and this is the other side, the darker side of what's going on this planet. I won't be able to go into too much of it, but let's give you an example from her. She's saying, I even recall a lot of intuition, read people's thoughts, etc. At 6 years old, I remember being visited by black helicopters. I was in my pool and a huge black helicopter passed above me really close several times, and I was convinced they were observing me. At 13, I started to be manipulated by the government. They have ability to know where the star children are incarnated, and their abilities. So this is the other side of the coin. They know. Okay, the new human is not so simple as foreign DNA. It's a combination of genetic improved bodies in combination with souls from different places in the universe incarnating in improved bodies. The souls have different frequencies, vibrations, depending on their evolutionary status, that plays a role in activation of the DNA of that particular body. I believe we also have to take into account the collective soul of Homo sapiens. So this is complex. What we have to also understand is this. Abilities such as telepathy, non-verbal communication are all abilities are natural. The ability to access memories enhanced, they often have the photographic memories, and they also have an accelerated immune system. Really important, because I want to tell you about that in a minute. So the new human is telling me this. When I talk to the children, it blows my mind, even though I've come desensitized to a certain extent. My ET guides teach me different knowledge so I can teach adults to help humanity to awaken. And this is why they've come. Talking about accelerated immune systems, here's a bit of evidence that may interest you. In 1995, children with 24 active codons have shown remarkable resistance to disease, with heightened immune systems tested for disease appear to be immune to everything. Science believed these unused codons were from our genetic past, but now the theory is changing. Perhaps they're actually from our future. They're everywhere. These are children in China. They call them extra high-functioning children. They have teleportation abilities. They also can open the flower bud with their mind. They're seen globally. And the Chinese know about them and actually work with them and train them. They're also doing this in Russia. So what we know about them now is that what Dr. Brown is saying, the knowledge of an understanding operates at biomolecular level, where the sentient activity of the brain takes its transgenerational information. Information is encoded. Remember what Dr. Crick said? They were waiting for us to reach a certain level of it before they'll wake us up. The information is encoded in the atomic structure of the DNA molecule, can accessed more efficiently to produce savant-like characteristics. They are accessing the Akashic record of sorts within the DNA molecule. Okay? So it's what we're talking about is remodeling of the genome to make dormant regions accessible. So this is what Zach is saying about all these different ones. The title is a good one. The labels such as crystal child, indigo, rainbow child is not describing the person but the person's expression of self. The indigo is a warrior personality to break down the system that's wrong and needs change. Crystalline children has the aura of love and peace, healer to bring in the sight, the medium to bring in the sight. The rainbow child has the energy of the creator, leader, kingship personality. It's a vibrational difference. It's a term humans are using because of limited understanding. Those who call themselves these labels are just resonating to the frequency of those attributes, not staying with their status quo. Animals are changing too, personality-wise. Animals are evolving. So what we have to understand is that they're contacted by their family, because many of them, remember, they incarnated from other star beings that they're interacting with. My contact with non-human cosmic race of beings occurred before I was born. My family, before I came to be in the earth domain and had a close relationship after them, was continued after my birth. There are ET screens, and one of the important things to remember is the fear is part of the waking up. I help them achieve their genetic goals, and in return my healing and psychic ability plus my understanding of life on earth was enhanced. Part of this is a shamanic wake-up call, getting us used to living and operating in a multi-dimensional reality. I came through a portal in the sun, this 10-year-old in England told me. Many of the children born these days have memories from their past lives. They're kept on track by continuing their interaction with their cosmic family while they're in human form. 96% of ETs travel to and from other dimensions was in the free survey. This young man said at 5, his other family, he came from Arcturus. His mother had blue skin, the language is thought forms and telepathy. He claims to see through people's eyes at times. He asked what I was doing at work because I couldn't understand the computer code I was writing at the time. He feels he can read people's minds and it can be scary. People see UFOs, as this is quite normal, and you will find that he also is ADHD. Another one. Before I became pregnant, my now 10-week-old son, I was visited by a tall, wispy, long-fingered ET told me that the male child in my body would be gifted. So many parents are told there's something unusual or special about their child, and they're warned and they're helped to understand. This little lad, amazing mind, actually when he talked to me, he said he was a light physicist on Orion. And the reason he spoke to me was because of my frequency. And he said to me that as a light physicist, he worked on time travel technology in his other lifetime. And he said the problem is with the scientists here, they're a bit dumb. And the nearest is Tesla to his understanding. This is what I'm talking about, guys. This is really an upgrade. How about this one? My daughter talked to me about her life in the Crystal Kingdom from here. No one's ever hungry or sad, she said. It was wonderful. Our special friends are there, but they aren't really special because everyone's a special friend there. She told me that everyone lived in a giant crystal building. It was clear like quartz. She picked up the quartz to show me what she meant. She had described living in a jungle world with other cat people. We call them special friends. This hardly looks like fear-based stuff, does it? My son has described the mantis as big bugs. He thinks they're really funny looking. He also describes a lion being that comes to him and calls baby lion. It's here to keep him safe and is his best friend. The children have beautiful understanding of their ET friends. They're aware that they're taken aboard craft, have a sense of loving familiarity with them and with the beings that visit them. And Sandra again tells her story of her family and children in the book. This 8-year-old I met in Queensland. On the craft there is a mantid body I go into. He talks about evaporating into his essence, into the mantid form at times, even though it appears a bit strange. He said, just like you just think it and that's how it happens. Soul swapping, believe it or not, 15.18% of ETs soul swap with a human, and 82% of the survey a connection with beings pre-birth. So this is what we're finding from adults as well as children. The soul connection, this was a really lovely one. The grandmother wrote to me this. She said her grandson buried a Christmas beetle placing 3 evenly placed sticks on the grave. And that this would allow the beetle to leave and travel in space and reincarnate into another animal of its choosing. I asked him how he knew this, and he screwed up his face and said he didn't know, but later said it was his angel. He said we, talking about her and him, had been on heaps of planets together, and I commented I wasn't sure if I liked the one we had picked this time. And he replied, "Oh no, Granny, this is a great planet. It's the only one that has mixed species on it." So, space school, how do they help these new souls coming into this planet, learning how to be human and manage humanity and to change it? How are they going to do that? And that is through the secret school, or space school as I call it. Whitney Strieber, many years ago, got vilified for writing the book The Secret School about being educated on craft. We now know this is more than what's going on here. He was given 9 lessons involved in the manipulation of time, because learning how to control time as a tool was about reaching higher consciousness and a real relationship with the beings. I don't mind going through the walls. I learn more on the spaceships than I do at school. I'm hearing this all the time. What are they learning? Now this will blow you away. These are often the kinds of things taught to children under 10. Quantum physics, the holographic nature of the universe, connection to all sentient life, levitation, psi abilities, understanding spatial geometry of thought, how to operate in a multidimensional reality, parallel universes, how to communicate, interpret, interact with interdimensional non-human intelligences, mind melds, telekinesis, multidimensional ecology, manifestation, directed thought and emotion, healing, working with energy, the true history of man's origins. This is a gentleman that wrote to me in Queensland many years ago and said this: "I'd never heard of anyone else having alien classes as a child. It's been a blessing and a curse. I remember being given physics classes at the age of 3 or 4 in a classroom of children of similar age. I remember the details well, an avid interest in physics since. I've not known what to do with the information." He said, it was just crazy. I did a year of philosophy and science and amazed my teacher with the fact that I could answer any question I never studied. These kids are being taught somewhere else. Okay, so they're shown. These are some of the things, just to give you an idea, how to pilot spacecraft. They do it with consciousness. Many of them said, I read star maps, shown advanced technologies, moved sometimes into another form for a particular task, shown genetic engineering. An 8-year-old described to me perfectly about being shown levitation on an off-world planet and genetic engineering. Healing procedures, the nature of black holes. Another 8-year-old girl told me that a few nights previously she'd been shown the inside of a black hole and then taken to a wormhole, and she did the pictures for me because she said it was so cool. To decode and understand scripts, symbols, light language, time travel, taken on missions to Earth and off-world, taught advanced physics, and many, many other things. It's a complete education. What do the children, how do the children articulate it? "Did you have any good dreams last night?" the mother said. "Yes, Mum, I finished magic school." "What did you learn?" Everything, mostly science. I learnt about space and gravity. Time controls everything. Time controls all. My son says that a white light comes through the window and suddenly he's there at the school. This is how they'll describe it. My 3-year-old son was complaining. And he said, "Mummy, I don't go to school today. I've already went to school. I was at school with my special friends." I asked him when he was at school. He said, "Today, night time. I got back now." I asked him what school looked like, and he said he had a small class and a boy was teaching them, but the boy had really big black eyes and white clothes. So there's your clues. This is another one. We're in a spaceship, this little 5-year-old saying the craft is grey and the windows are blue. That's one of our special friends. She's a girl. The hair is half girl and her body is half special friend. Her hair is light brown. She has thin hair. And I want you to look here. This is the drawing. This is the thin hair. That's a boy, she said, that's jumping to look out. He's not tall enough. There are stars and the moon and the sun, and the big ones are planets. Mercury, Mars and Jupiter. My special friend has a hybrid body. Her hair on her head is not as thick as her one. Her home is cold and everyone is leaving, and Mars is their new home. So you're getting a lot of detail. Here's another one. The daughter explains it's a boy, it's a special friend. Notice again the special friend who walks through the window. It doesn't matter if the window's open or closed. He just comes when we're in our bunk beds. The mother asks, why did he come to see her? He's telling me about your baby. It's a boy baby and it will come in your tummy soon. He, the being, comes at night. He was telling me all about outer space and woke up in the night and thought he heard footsteps and just went back to sleep. He said, I thought it was you, Mum. But I saw a white foot and I said, don't be afraid, I'm a nice person. I'm sorry I scared you. And I said that so the being wouldn't be afraid of me. Another drawing of an 8-year-old being taken to Mars. This is a mantid being here. This is the domes she saw on Mars. This is a domes from the Mars rover. And this is what she said. The alien here, she said, was an important one because he's very different to the grey ones. The grey ones don't need clothes because of their species. The green one is rare, it doesn't talk at all. The grey ones talk all the time. Here's another one, another young lady of 7 taken to Mars on a spacecraft. This is her drawing. She said it was a desert. We don't learn anything we learn on Earth. The Martians she sees look like typical greys, head slightly larger than humans. Boriska, I don't know if any of you came across him from Russia, talked about his life on Mars in a past life, and talked about the Lemurians, hold on a minute, being, I think, 9 meters tall when he visited Earth. And he also knew that was knowledge under the pyramids. He also talked about what happened to Mars, and he flew to Earth as a pilot. He knew a lot of Earth history, and I think he's now in his teens, but he was an amazing young man that talked about this. So, what have we got here? The Martian civilization wiped out by aliens. Physicist Dr. Brandenburg believes that the ancient civilization was wiped out by a nuclear attack by another race. 16-year-old Zach told me about his past life on Mars, where it was wiped out, there was a war on Mars. Just have a look here at some of the interesting artifacts on Mars. Just have a little look. Anyone who's interested, go and have a look at past civilizations on Mars. I get a lot of information about Mars. People live inside the moon. Lots of the children have told me that the moon is artificial. There are beings under the surface. 4 years old, my friend Clarice, the alien, short, green, with big eyes, who has not grown up. They play games together. Here we are, Clarice. So, Mother, where did you hide? On the spacecraft. It has doors that slide open when you walk near them. Mother, did the spacecraft make a noise? No, it didn't make any noise at all. Mum, did you play while it was parked in the garden? No, we went up in the sky. We went really fast. We went to their home. Where is the planet that has rings round it? Mum, Saturn. Yes, Saturn. It didn't take long to get there. And do you know all planets go around the sun? I went to Clarice's house. It's not too far away because there's an X where they know where to land. What were you wearing? A helmet. The suits come in different colours and the helmet's not heavy. What is it like on Saturn? It's very cold. There's ice all over the ground and rocks around. Is it sunny? Oh no, it's always nighttime on Saturn because you can't see the sun. It's too far away. Okay. So you keep getting stories like this. It starts to get pretty compelling. Strange artifacts on the moon? Well, China's not been too slow in showing us some of those. Lots of strange stuff. What was interesting here is the young lad remembers a lifetime on the moon. We left something on the moon. Something happened before I died. I had a peaceful death and we left something on the moon to help Earth. I was sent to help, but it worked with consciousness. A portal was used, magnetic energy, to physically move people or ships, and also worked as a time machine, but would only send your consciousness to a different time. This is Peter, who's 12, who remembers a lifetime where there was an artifact that worked with human consciousness in his past life, which they left on the moon. So you could say they've got really good imaginations, or you could say maybe there's something else going on. I'm trying to get through a lot here, so excuse it if it's going a bit fast, but I want to give you as much as I can. This is a young lady, he's 9 years old, was given these books. She called them books, but they weren't really books. Look at the information that she's saying were in them. The red one, she said, was about creation and its origins. The brown one's about different planets and life there. The green one's about nature and how we can make contact with plants, animals, and understand nature. The green one's about the body and how it works and how we get it to evolve. The blue book is about light and truth. The red book she can't open yet because a dragon took the key from her in the 1700s. The black book is about darkness and evil. This is how they may describe it, and it's knowing how they articulate it. These are some images I've had from a 4-year-old, a being, the man that comes and gets him. And this is a craft that a 4-year-old with an energy field around it, and the craft that takes him to the bigger craft. and the energy field is to stop people from getting out, he said. Here's some more images of the children, flat-headed beings as well as the standard oval-shaped. This one's Clowny. Notice the energy field. She goes in this craft, and then it takes her up to this main craft. And her understanding of Clowny is that he just comes and visits. This is another one with the orbs, and I could go into a lot around the orbs. Many of you are picking them up on digital cameras. You can call them in. They appear to be sentient, but I want to connect these to the UFO phenomena in this way. I did a regression with a 15-year-old because his whole family had been taken up on craft. He was really quite reluctant. He said, you know, the day off from school didn't seem so good when I was actually all prepared to start finding out what was going on. So he wasn't very keen, but his grandmother, I'd worked with her and she'd completely shifted in her understanding. So he gave it a go. Once he was in the trance state, he really was he was actually communicating with the being. And he said this, he's actually saying all this, oh, why me? Oh, I volunteered to come. I've been here 27 times before, he spontaneously said. Then he talked about the beings visiting him in the garden. And he said they arrived when I was in my garden. I can see orbs, whitey gold, smaller ones. They're here to make me feel warm, and they're family. The big one is Great Nana, and the others, Nana's dad, grandfather, and granddad's brother. They're here to make me feel comfortable, to reassure me. I asked him how he knew what the orbs of light were, and he said he just knew. I asked John why they're here with him. He said they've come with the Greys to support him and make him feel comfortable, so he won't be frightened. John then said that when the Greys left, the orbs of light went into the spacecraft too. So we really need to start seeing how this is all connected. My daughter 6 mentioned you could see emotions as colours. When people speak, it comes out of their mouths. She said, when I'm angry, it's a different colour than when I'm happy. Knowledge bombs, information, multidimensional information. And this 8-year-old explained the knowledge bombs like this. Sometimes I get a headache, my head's so small I can't always take it in so quickly. It's like knowledge bombs are being dropped on my head. This is another way everyone is getting information. I'll say this very quickly. This young lady of 7, her mother wrote to me and said, in my book Awakening, with this script, her daughter could read it. This young lady actually then, over Skype, I asked her if she'd read it to me. She actually was able to translate it and read it to me. And she actually did it with some of the scripts as well. So the kids seem to have an innate understanding of how to decode a lot of this information. Education programs you out of your light, and this is where we have to look at what we're doing with these new kids. There's nothing good about the system. The children are programmed and the teachers just push the keys. They program you out of your light. The programs are a virus. And extinguishes the light we have inside us, and we lose the knowledge we had in the beginning. So this is what the kids are saying. And this 10-year-old said to his teachers in England, you teach in a linear fashion, but I think in spirals. In school they try to teach us in a straight line when I think in a spiral. I don't have a problem with the world, but the world has a problem with me. There's nothing they can teach me that I don't already know. His teachers really did struggle with this young man, understandably. This is what's going on with our kids. And I'm being reached by educators, parents, psychologists saying, what is going on with the kids? And this is what the 6-year-old is struggling with here. He was finding it difficult to integrate at school. He's an honest little boy and wears his heart on his sleeve. He's frustrated other kids don't understand when he says and accuse him of lying when he tells them about reincarnation and alien life on other planets. He's absolutely perplexed that they don't know such things. School is a waste of... This is a 15-year-old who couldn't talk to her parents because of their belief system. Knew she was a starseed and said, Mary, I'm going crazy going to school. This is what she's saying. I felt sick, couldn't do it anymore. I feel like no one's helping me at school, no one's teaching me, no one's awake, except for my friends, and they don't seem to be awake enough. I don't like talking negative, she says, but no one understands that going to school is really a waste of time. I'm not learning anything. It's like a children's prison. They don't question what society thinks or how we live on this planet. Yet we have to pay to stay alive, pay to go to work. You pay to eat, pay for water, pay for shelter, pay for power that could be free, and use cosmic waves that can let cities never sleep. These are the kids I'm coming across. I survived it. This is an educator who's got a PhD. And she's basically saying, I've seen many extraordinary children, the young adults fail who were bright and unconventional. They have the energy sucked out of them. These are the new kids, and some teachers are star seeds and know it. The children are being more creative and out of the box, and so the teachers need to keep up with them. I can tell you now, a room full of star kids versus one super 3D teacher, and the teacher will always lose. Slowly the children are asking for music in all they do, time for meditation. She promotes it, time to outdoors, time to explore their passions. This is a 15-year-old doing a school project in New Zealand. I don't know what the teacher's made of it. This is Antonia when he's 15. Antonia produced this model of technologies resonating with pure light and sound with crystalline generators to increase the vibratory level of the physical world by crystals around the pyramid. He stated those in the pyramid could project the vibration of those inside the pyramid and send it around the globe. I don't know what his teachers thought of that. I've got more to show you. The children receive instant information. They're not satisfied with the schools designed in the 19th century. They need to accommodate children who are aware of their multidimensional essence. So the educational pyramid needs to be turned upside down. So we know now, one of the ways that some of these children can be taught is without sight. And the first course was ever taught was at Agnes Water. My daughter got the lady over to do this. And these children can be blindfolded and they can see with their consciousness. I haven't got a lot of time, so I might just be able to show you a quick clip of what they can do. She's talking about it now. She was trained in Mexico with EOV, which is really, they train these children for the last 20 years to do it. It's done in India. And what it actually does is it gets the child to understand they can see through their consciousness. And I've seen these little children, because I was actually there at one of the classes, and after even a few lessons, these children were literally colouring with blindfolds on. And I'm going to show you a little clip of one. This was done in Agnes Water, and I'll just show a quick clip of her colouring with the blindfold on to show you how it works.
What's your name? What you doing?
Yeah, it's looking so lovely.
That's the
It's a
father
wildflower
speaking.
garden with the native Australian flora. It's the most diverse.
And so this is
world.
these are specially designed goggles. You
Butterflies
cannot
there
see
too.
through them.
Then you come up
And
and
after
have
a few
look.
lessons
If you
in
bring the camera
expanding
up,
her
see all the
energy
colouring in. Might be
and her
an
consciousness,
easy thing to do.
she was able to
I
see
didn't bring very many
360
colours along,
degrees
which
with the goggles on, and colour,
Blue's a little bit bright
detailed
as well,
colouring.
but
Could you read something on the page?
and then just reading.
You okay?
Native Australian flora is the most diverse and varied in the world. Spectacular flowers such as the unique red and yellow kangaroos were highlighted to see.
yay, perfect.
One of the ladies actually that went had a dyslexic son.
I mean, this book, I couldn't find
I mean, I could show you a lot more, but I want to show you some more stuff, so I'm going to have to go fast. There's a lot more there. But what was interesting was the dyslexic son that couldn't read very well at all did this course. The mother could not believe that once he was blindfolded with those goggles on, he could read fluently with his consciousness. And she was in tears. So it's all clues to what's going on. This one here, I'm trying to get through a lot of material. I've got a quarter of an hour left. Okay. This is a 7-year-old. I think this is the 7-year-old, this one. Yes, Hayden. Now, Hayden told me that this is his astral form here. Before I came here to Earth, I was just a will-o'-the-wisp, a spirit in angel form, he told his mum. I programmed my life on Earth and decided on my star mission and found myself in Mummy's tummy. My home star planet is Elba. He's visited by beings which look like skeletons. He remembers he has incarnated as animals as well as human at the time of the dinosaurs. He draws symbols, visits other places beyond his consciousness, perceives energy fields, feels his mind and body is changed in some way. He's travelled to the moon in another life, can go to the 9th dimension. His thoughts can affect lights. That's his astral body, by the way. just to give you some idea. This is how he draws his astral body. Okay, and this is a planet that he is creating on the 7th dimension. He says the grey beings that he saw in my office, he said they can only go as far as the 6th dimension. Okay, so that's these ones here that are in my office. This is another being he sees that comes from the pumpkin planet, by the way. And he said the pumpkin planet has cool aliens called greys on Earth. Oh, sorry, that's the pumpkin planet here.